This World Cup hasn't even reached the knockout stage, and it has already accumulated more genuine scandals than most tournaments manage in their entire run. A referee was turned away at the border over accusations nobody had to prove. A former FIFA president's own predecessor is suing him over how he actually got the job. Ticket prices are so far out of control that state attorneys general had to step in. A mother who could not watch her son make history because of a visa she could not afford. None of these happened in isolation. By the end of this video, you are going to see exactly how they connect and why the same handful of decisions keep showing up underneath every single one of them. Let us start with the story that has gotten the least attention relative to how serious it actually is, because it sets up everything that follows. Omar Artan is one of only 52 referees FIFA selected out of the entire world for this tournament. He was named Africa's best referee last year. He was 3 years into FIFA's own vetting process before they confirmed his spot. He landed in Miami with a valid visa and full credentials. United States Customs held him for 11 hours, reportedly grilling him on Somali politics and militant groups in the region, before declaring him inadmissible and putting him on a flight to Istanbul. The White House's justification came from Andrew Giuliani, executive director of their World Cup task force. His exact words to CBS News were, "Artan was talking to some very bad people right as he was coming to the United States." When reporters pushed for any actual evidence, Giuliani said there was classified information we cannot discuss now, and at some point that may be released. It has not been released. In a separate interview, he called Artan a bad actor outright and said barring him was absolutely the right decision, without ever explaining what that decision was actually based on. Here is the detail that exposes how thin that justification really is. Days after the United States decided Artan was too dangerous to let through customs, UEFA selected him to referee the European Super Cup final between Paris Saint-Germain and Aston Villa. UEFA's president personally praised him as an excellent young but already experienced referee. The same man one government called a security threat was apparently completely fine to officiate one of European football's biggest annual matches a few months later. Both things cannot really be true. One of those institutions is wrong about him. And Artan wasn't an isolated case, he's just the clearest example of a pattern. Senegal's team was reportedly searched on the tarmac with sniffer dogs on arrival, something football correspondents covering this tournament say has never happened to a participating nation before, not even at World Cups hosted by Qatar or Russia, two countries that have spent years under criticism for exactly this kind of treatment of visitors. Uzbekistan's team was inspected by dogs arriving for a friendly in New York. Iran's national team had to relocate their entire training base to Mexico and commute across the border on match days, a direct consequence of the ongoing conflict between Iran and the United States. Right now, there are 39 countries facing a full or partial U.S. travel ban, and several of them, Iran, Senegal, Haiti, Côte d'Ivoire, are competing in this tournament anyway, under conditions no other team is facing. This matters beyond the individual stories because FIFA's own contractual requirement for hosting a World Cup includes a guarantee of unrestricted entry for every participant. Infantino said so himself back in 2017, you can't have a World Cup without the participants there. So when that exact guarantee gets broken repeatedly in full public view, you would expect FIFA to do something about it. Instead, their response was that they were not involved in host country immigration processes, and they left it there. The organization that requires this protection as a condition of awarding the tournament in the first place is the same one shrugging when it gets violated. That same instinct to protect the institution, not the person actually affected, shows up again almost immediately, this time with money instead of borders. FIFA advertised tickets starting at $60. By the time fans could actually buy them, the same seats were running between $242 and $960, with some listings for the final climbing into 5 and 6 figures. When President Trump publicly claimed the tournament had received 500 million ticket requests, 10 times the combined demand of the previous 2 World Cups, fact-checkers at PBS found that even with the tournament already underway, plenty of matches still weren't sold out. The unprecedented demand. FIFA and the administration kept describing didn't match what cameras were actually showing inside the stadiums. State attorneys general in New York and New Jersey opened formal investigations into FIFA's pricing structure as a result, subpoenaing the organization over surprise pricing tiers and tickets that didn't match what fans had actually paid for. FIFA's explanation for the empty sections cameras kept catching was that fans were choosing to stay in the concourse instead of their seats. Almost nobody bought it because the same empty sections kept showing up match after match, in stadium after stadium. If FIFA's instinct with borders was to look away, its instinct with this was to actively profit from the confusion, and that same profit motive runs straight into the next scandal, which is maybe the most cynical of them all. FIFA introduced mandatory 3-minute hydration breaks in every match, in every stadium, regardless of actual temperature. In March, they opened those exact breaks up as sellable advertising inventory. Fox cut to full commercial breaks during live play. In the Qatar versus Switzerland match, a referee held 22 professional athletes standing on the pitch, water in hand, simply waiting for a commercial to finish. FIFA created 208 brand new ad slots that did not exist before this tournament, all of it dressed up as player welfare. Meanwhile, scientists who had written FIFA an open letter asking them to double the breaks to 6 minutes for genuine safety reasons in stadiums that can reach dangerous heat levels were simply ignored. When FIFA had an actual scientific reason to extend protection for players, they did not. The break stayed exactly as long as it needed to be to sell the ads. So, you have an organization willing to override real safety science to protect a revenue stream. It's worth asking what else gets protected the same way when something goes wrong on the pitch. The VAR controversy in that exact same match answers that question directly. Switzerland were awarded a penalty against Qatar after a review that should have ended with a simple graphic, the offside line you see in the Premier League every single week. It never appeared on any broadcast, anywhere in the world. FIFA's explanation came 4.5 hours later, a technical outage. Gary Neville called it a dictatorship, live on air, saying plainly that FIFA holds this data and chooses not to show it to fans. When FIFA finally released the still images meant to settle the controversy, the players still looked offside in them. The statement that was supposed to end the argument made it bigger. Every story so far has been about an institution protecting itself when something goes wrong publicly. The next one is about who actually pays the price when that happens, and it's rarely the institution. Vozinha is a 40-year-old goalkeeper who waited his entire career for a World Cup. He delivered the best performance of his life against Spain, kept a clean sheet, was named player of the match, and stood there afterward in tears because his own mother could not get a visa to watch him do it. Cape Verde's visa rejection rate from the United States sits above 40%, nearly double the global average. FIFA knew that number before they ever chose this country to host. They built the tournament anyway. When the consequence of that decision played out live on camera, in the most human way possible, FIFA said nothing. That instinct, knowing the outcome in advance and proceeding regardless, isn't new. It's the same instinct that put the current FIFA president in his job in the first place, and that story just resurfaced in a courtroom. Michel Platini was supposed to become FIFA president in 2015. One of the greatest players Europe has ever produced, and, at the time, the obvious successor to Sepp Blatter. Then a 2 million Swiss francs payment surfaced. FIFA's ethics committee banned him for 8 years, and the job went to Gianni Infantino instead, at the time a relatively unknown general secretary working directly under Platini. Here's what makes this relevant right now, 10 years later. 2 separate Swiss criminal courts have since examined that exact payment in 2 separate trials years apart. Both times, the verdict was the same: no crime. If there was no crime, the obvious question is what FIFA's own ethics process actually banned him over, and why the man who benefited from that ban is the one still running the organization. On June 8th, 3 days before this World Cup kicked off, Platini filed a criminal complaint in Paris, naming Infantino directly, alleging a coordinated effort to leak the financial story at the exact moment it would do the most damage, clearing Platini off the ballot before anyone ever voted. And this isn't the only legal case shadowing Infantino's organization right now. A separate federal case, completely unrelated to Platini, involves a former Fox executive who was convicted by an actual jury for bribery connected to World Cup broadcasting rights. That conviction was reinstated on appeal, and weeks before this tournament started, the U.S. Justice Department asked the court to drop the case anyway, with a federal prosecutor telling the judge plainly it simply didn't fit the administration's current priorities. Nobody had to prove the man innocent. The system just stopped asking the question. So look at everything sitting on the table at once. A referee banned on accusations nobody's proven. Teams searched like suspects while FIFA looks away. Ticket prices that locked out the fans who built this sport, while FIFA profited from the confusion. A safety rule turned into ad inventory, while real scientific warnings got ignored. A VAR system that failed to produce evidence at the exact moment it mattered most. A mother who couldn't watch her son make history, in a system FIFA knew would produce exactly that outcome. A criminal complaint accusing the sitting president of fraud in his own rise to power. A corruption case tied to this very tournament dropped for reasons that had nothing to do with guilt or innocence. Every one of these stories looks different on the surface, but pull back far enough and they're all the same shape. A decision gets made at the top of this organization quietly, with almost nobody outside it in the room. Almost nobody gets to check that decision while it's actually happening, when it would still matter. And when it eventually goes wrong, in public, the people responsible for it almost never pay any real cost. The case gets dropped. The statement gets issued. The story moves on to the next match before anyone is actually held accountable. This tournament still has weeks left to play, with the knockout rounds yet to even begin. Based on everything that's already happened before a single elimination match has kicked off, there's no real reason to believe this list is finished growing. Subscribe. We are keeping track of every part of it.